Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Rob Chafe, Mad Cow, Amplification.
Hey, everybody, it's me, Todd. Novak. Welcome to the Guitar Knobs podcast. We're thrilled to death that you are listening to our show. We are very, very excited about this one because Rob's joining us. He climbed out from the 50 or 60 amps that he's currently been buried in.
He brought 3 with him today.
He did.
Yeah.
I'm just giving people's amps away.
I love it. That's a great idea. We got a very special thing we're going to be doing tonight. It's not an interview. We're not interviewing Rob because, well, who wants that?
Yeah.
But what we do want to find out is, Rob, why don't you introduce what this is all about?
Power management. Talking about AC voltage and how it affects your amp and what you can do.
Whoa. Don't change it out just yet, everybody.
No.
It's gonna be a hot one.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a hot one. We're gonna learn some things.
High voltage rock and roll.
Jared actually did a really good version of that on the last one.
Did he?
Yeah, in the background, it's in the little, the after bits.
After that.
High voltage, and it was great. Anyways, but he did way better than me. Okay. Hey, by the way, speaking of AC/DC, I got there's a really weird thing. I noticed in Instagram, I was making a reel. I do these things just on my personal channel where I show whatever the record that I'm playing that day. And then this one was Dirty Deeds. And I was like, my favorite cut on that is Ride On.
Oh, okay.
Not listed.
Not listed.
Doesn't exist according to Instagram.
What?
I'm like, what? How is this possible? Every other song on that album except Ride On. And it's not even because it was also on Who Made Who. They don't show it on that either. They just, for some reason, there must be some kind of recording rights or
right.
some
There must be a
snafu there.
songwriter that won't give permission to.
Maybe.
I wrote it.
Anyways, if you,
That's pretty cool.
It's a lesser known AC/DC song, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm not an AC/DC aficionado. I know, everybody settle down, but I like Bond stuff, and that's about it. So,
James Bond.
yeah. Anyways, how's that? I snuck a whole bunch of stuff in there, Rob. You didn't even know that was going to come. You're like, what? All I did was look at my paper, and the next thing we know.
Yep.
Yes.
Alrighty. This is going to be really fun because Rob, for those that don't know what you do, who you are, what you're about, explain to the good people out there that are listening, driving in their car, getting cut off, or sitting in their shop, looking out the window, or whatever.
I fix guitar amps and stuff.
Yes. Well, I mean,
Mostly guitar amps now.
Yes,
I've narrowed things down quite a bit, thankfully.
let's say, I think it's pretty fair to say you're probably the premier amp fixer in this entire latitude.
Yeah, let's say Columbus. I'm one of. Yeah,
No, not Columbus.
I do guitar stuff.
There's not a whole lot of other people.
We'll call it east
around.
of the Mississippi.
East of the Mississippi.
There's always somebody else.
There might be somebody else,
yeah.
but there's no more Robs.
And
Well,
there's-
this is true.
And no one near as nice as you.
Well, this is probably true as well. So yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That makes
Thank you,
all
Tony.
the other people really hard to get along with.
Wow. Well, and actually, most techs are.
Anyways,
We are typically a crunchy or grumpy, crunchy kind of people, aren't we?
Yeah.
So we're going to learn all the things that Rob thinks about at his place that
No.
maybe a lot of things that we don't.
I think about it all the
You
time.
do you? That's
Yeah.
good.
That's what keeps him up at night. He's
Yes.
like voltages.
So it's going to be a 101 on power.
Amperages,
That's what
mostly.
this is. It's a
Amperages?
I'm
it's
worried
it's
about
an amp
amperages.
power 101
Interesting.
thing. Okay. We do have a handful of announcements I want to make sure we get through.
Yes.
Number one, our good friend, Gregory Randall.
Yes.
Oh, bless his soul. He upgraded. Yes.
No. you
He's
didn't
in
tell me that.
he's in the Great Orange Suite in the sky now.
Nice.
He died?
No, I thought about retracting that really quickly just for clarity.
Okay.
I know. It just meant it was, it's
Actually,
like the one in.
that's what you could do now is like in Memoriam. What's the thing they do at the Oscars?
How do you say that?
I know. What is it?
The memorial.
Say it.
Memoriam.
Yeah. But it always says in
Memoriam.
Memoriam.
Memoriam,
Okay,
yes.
Memoriam. Yeah. So I mean, like you should do that for the show. Like if anything, you can the big orange
What do you mean?
lounge in the
There's
sky.
nothing wrong with it. What, the show's not dead.
No. I don't mean the show, but like if a longtime listener or a friend or something.
Oh my gosh.
We're getting older, and I don't know about you, but I've
You
got
are.
people passing on now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think the people listening are getting
Okay,
older.
that took sideways.
Okay, here we go. I asked Gregory why he decided to upgrade. Actually, I said, thank you so much for doubling down on us knuckleheads. We truly appreciate it, man. Dare I ask, why you decided on a bunk bed in the Great Orange Penthouse Suite? And he said, it is a bit hard to explain. I think you are all worth investing in. Selfishly, because you have made me laugh and taught me so much. But I also believe you are all worth investing in because you make the music community better. Help folks meet each other, provide a forum for smaller companies to connect and make others, so many others feel better by knowing that they are part of this community. I just had a birthday, and this is part of what I wanted to do this year. Invest in the good. Promote the good. Help folks find each other, encourage each other, and help each other.
That's nice.
That's very nice.
You all do it
We're
well.
not done yet.
I'm honored to be a small part of these knobs. Peace, Gregory. I mean,
That's sweet.
if that doesn't make your month, I don't know what does.
And luckily, we're at the end of the month.
Yeah, that was honestly like he didn't have to. He just had to say,
That's
"No,
very
it's cool."
cool. No,
I just
that's
wanted
very cool.
to. It's that kind of stuff. I mean, every time we get that, I'm just knocked over, and I truly appreciate it so much myself. Tony, I believe you do.
Oh, absolutely. No, I'm with you.
Rob's indifferent.
Yeah. No, I think it is. It's very, very nice of him.
Yeah, it's a great sentiment, and it means a lot to us. So thank you.
It really
Gregory.
does.
Okay, we've got as I mentioned before, we've got some sketchy sounds guitar knobs boosts that are being made, and
Boosty
if you want one of these boost pedals are going for $75.
Whoa.
That's a
Ooh.
steal.
Yeah.
That's a steal. These are handmade.
You can't even buy an
Sketchy
enclosure for
sounds.
that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you almost can't.
And I believe he's going to offer a couple different colorways in case you don't want orange. If you
no, it's
want
gonna
one of
stay
these,
orange.
if you want one of these in whatever color,
You should do a sparkle orange.
well, that's going to be up to Mr. Sketchy.
Okay.
Yeah.
You need to
And
shoot.
Mr. Sounds.
Yes, you need to shoot me a DM.
Who's the tiebreaker?
Hey,
What?
you
Sorry.
bozos! I'm handing out information. You need to shoot me a DM at Guitar Knobs on Instagram. Okay. If you are like, I'm not on Instagram and I don't want a DM, you can email me Todd at theguitarknobs.com,
Yeah.
and we're gonna get you hooked up with getting in the line to get one of these.
That's
it's not
cool.
a big, it's not you're gonna have to wait for months or anything like that. Yeah, he's really great. He loves making pedals and is just really excited to do these for our listeners.
That's great.
So please make sure you jump on that. You can't beat that with a stick.
Looks awesome.
And it sounds great too. It honestly,
Yeah.
legit. It's a
No, it
really
is a
good sounding
It's a good
boost.
sounding pedal. I have an announcement.
Okay,
Is it okay if I do that?
please.
Well,
So about a week or two ago, one of my favorite artists, Matthew Sweet, had a stroke up in Toronto.
Oh no.
And somebody started up a GoFundMe page. If you can contribute to help, because he has no insurance, he obviously isn't touring.
Wow.
He's going to have $500,000 easily worth of costs, because they had to be. The deal is, in Canada, they won't treat Americans without insurance. I mean, they'll get them stabilized, but long-term care not going to happen unless you've got American insurance.
Wow.
Since he didn't have that, they had to life flight him back to Nebraska.
Oh my gosh, that must have been a
With
fortune.
with the nurses and equipment
really
and everything.
tall fence to get over to.
Yeah, well, it is. It is. But yeah, go to GoFundMe, look for Matthew Sweet, and they've raised a lot of money so far, but I think it's going to take a hell of a lot more. And he's He's brought a lot of joy with his music to me and a lot of other people. So if you can kick in, do it.
Wow. That's terrible.
Yep.
Proceeding with the announcements to try to get us into a little bit more sunshine.
Don't
So
do it.
Todd,
Yes.
one other announcement.
Oh, yes, please do.
There has been a birth in the world of the guitar knobs.
Tony, you are far too old to be pregnant.
I am, well, I look the part, but but no. A week or two ago, someone had presented a special pedal,
Yes.
and the pedal's name was
Yes.
the Tony Baloney
Yes.
Drive.
That's right. Overdrive.
Overdrive.
From what I heard.
Yes, from
Yes.
what you heard. It comes in a beautiful shade of baloney pink.
It is.
It comes in Oscar Mayer style packaging.
Yep.
And
A really talented designer made all that stuff.
I wouldn't.
This thing's going to look like a hunk of spam.
I'll show it to you, Rob. It looks amazing.
It's,
Keep talking, Tony.
So it's a great pedal. I opened it up and I just split a gut because it was so cool, and it actually sounds really good. I mean, it's I guess it's kind of a take on a Sparkle Drive. It operates a little bit different than a Sparkle Drive, but the sound out of it is really cool. And, I mean, come on, baloney pink, what more can you ask for?
Yes, it is a super, super fun, super cool pedal. This is made by Sam Jett.
Oh, yes, Sam Jett.
He's got 21 of There's only 21, everybody. So you got to make sure and go get this because once they're
That is
done,
ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous.
you
looking.
have pork, beef, gristle, and fat as your controls.
I love it.
And the nitwit of it is 4,426 ounces, which is 275 pounds.
Perfect.
Yeah. So anyways.
My dream weight.
Yeah. Someday. Anyways. So what you need to do if you want one of these, again, there's only 21. And here's the best part. All the proceeds are going to charity.
Oh, that's nice.
Because Sam is an absolute saint. Okay, these proceeds go to Hungry for Music, which puts musical instruments in the hands of kids that otherwise might not get them.
Cool.
I like that
It's
idea.
a beautiful gesture. It's super fun packaging, and it's in honor of Tony.
Yeah.
So you need to go to Tony Baloney Pedal, BOLONEY pedal. On Instagram.
Oh, okay. I thought there was going to be a .com. for
Sam
this.
doesn't have a shop. He's like trying to
that'd be
make this
hilarious.
happen. So just go to Tony Baloney Pedal on Instagram and DM that you want one. And then we'll follow up with all the information. Okay? These are $175.
Baloney
They're all
has a
hand-built.
first name. It's Tony.
Okay.
My baloney has a second name.
just gonna have
It's
to let it play itself out.
BALONEY.
It's B-O. Now you're going to confuse everybody,
Oh,
Tony.
I'm sorry.
Baloney.
I
It's
can't
Tony
spell.
Baloney Pedal. All right, Tony Baloney
broke
Pedal on Instagram. Go there, get one of these things, and you're going to be...
You're going to love it, and it's going
Yeah.
to a good cause. And thank you, Sam, for putting this together. And thank you, Todd, for designing the packaging because it just is so cool.
It's super fun. This will also be on... it'll be an Instagram video on the actual Tony Baloney Pedal page as well as our page. So if you forget this information, it's going to be up on our Instagram as well, okay? All right. I think that's it. No. Also, last thing. Spruce Effects, who we just had on the show. And they
Yes.
had that Junior Ranger pedal, which sounds absolutely fantastic.
Yep.
That is on sale right now for $119.
Oh,
That's a killer deal.
yeah.
So check out Spruce Effects and get one of those while you're out there getting all these other great things, okay? Mm-hmm. Thanks, everybody. We really appreciate you're supporting the builders. We have no stock in this at all, okay?
No. We're
all
just
right.
spreading the word.
Spreading the word. What's going on in our music worlds this week? We're going to check in with Tony. Go.
This week, I am working on an interesting project with our friend of the show, Mark Chatfield.
Oh, that's cool.
So Mark brought in a guitar that he wanted a new guard for, and this was kind of a take on I guess I've only seen it on George Fullerton's 1954 Strat prototype. So it has a separate metal control plate, and then it's got a cutout in the guard. So it looks like a Strat, but it's got this metal plate. So Mark had one. He wanted a new guard for it. So we put it back together, and then he comes back the next week and says, I want to convert all of my other guitars, all of my other Strats to that. So we're going to come up with something. It looks kind of like that.
Tony's showing us, everybody. It looks kind of like a surfboard fin.
Yeah, it's very similar. But the cool thing about it, and the only reason I think Mark likes it, is he likes to change out pickups a lot.
Yeah.
And with this in place, it's a lot easier than having to take off strings and do yeah. So it's kind of cool. I don't work with metal, but I have a guy down in Tennessee, Mark Redders.
I got somebody if that doesn't work out. Who also does anodizing?
Oh, that I want to talk to you about. But anyhow, Mark, I sent him down the drawing. He's going to do up some of these out of aluminum, which is what Mark Chatfield wants.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of. I might have some extra ones made up, and I might convert. Although I don't think I have any Strats right now, but at some point I might.
I'm sure you can find one off that Alibaba thing.
Yeah, probably. Oh no, I do have a Wayne Kramer Strat, but
you don't want to mess with that.
No, that one. I don't want to do that. But
okay,
anyhow,
that's cool.
But yeah, so that's kind of
we need to have
cool
him
project.
back in.
Okay.
I don't even care what he wants to talk about. He's just a fun guy to talk about. And he's been around the music scene for his whole life, so he's got to have a lot to talk about.
Forever and ever.
Talk about his favorite combo amps. How about that? Ooh. Why not, right?
I know what his answer would be.
None. I don't do them. No. Heads only.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, jeez. He's whispering. Okay. Rob, what's going on with you this week?
Oh, I bought an amp. This is a couple weeks ago.
Every time you come in, you just bought an amp.
I'm only here a few times a year, so that's not that bad.
Yeah.
Compared to Tony over here.
What'd you
just don't notice it because Tony's here every week, but talk to him how much.
I notice it.
He's grown numb to my purchases.
A Dr. Z Z-Rec Jr., which is his little version of the Z-Rec thing. So
nice.
I've threatened to buy one for a while, and I've had a couple through the shop, and so one was sitting on reverb too long. I don't know yet, and I say that because I think there's an issue with the one I got.
Okay.
Actually, I think. I know there's an issue.
Knew a guy.
Yeah. I plugged it in, hit a chord, went, that doesn't sound right. There's something going on here, and pretty much immediately found it. The rectifier tube was screwed up, and it was too low a voltage, so the amp just wasn't working anywhere where it should. So I emailed the fine fellow at Dr. Z, Don, who handles all their service stuff, and he got right back to me and said, yeah, your voltage should be XYZ, and I was like, okay, it's not, so we got a problem. So I'll find out. I got the replacement rectifier tube, and in the meantime, I put in the incorrect rectifier tube, and use my benchtop variac to pull the voltage down to where it should be, and I was happy with that. So
foreshadowing.
Yes.
Ooh.
So we'll see. We'll see. I'm hopeful. I've already kind of looked at the circuit before I even bought one and know what it was, and
nice.
And it's a train wreck rocket is what it's based off of.
Got it.
So, and that's always been something when I've seen samples, I've liked them. So yeah, we'll see what it is.
Perfect.
Yeah. Love it. Todd, what about you?
Well, this happened just a little bit ago, but it still counts because we didn't do a show last week because we had doubled up. We took a little tiny break. But I made my way out to see Starcrawler.
Starcrawler.
Yes, out to Cleveland. They were playing out there. So right after we had interviewed, I said, hey, we'll meet you up at the show, blobbity bloop. And I just kind of decided, well, I'm not going to, try to race up there so quickly. All the traffic from, everybody trying to get home, rush hour, dab. I didn't realize the Indians were playing.
Oh.
Yeah. At the game.
Yeah.
The hit.
Yeah.
That one. That was that night. So it took me a while to get up there. And when I did, at the Beachland Ballroom,
yes.
which is a really famous place here in Ohio.
Saw a lot of shows there.
There's no parking.
No.
You really have to. I was, I don't know, 4 or 5 blocks away. And so.
Was your car still there?
It was.
Oh.
It was, yes. Lovely neighborhood. Anyways, so I get all the way up there after walking 5 blocks and after a late cruise in, okay, and I'm like, no problem, I got time, because I'm thinking, it's gonna go on quite late. I wait in a line outside for half an hour, and I'm like, holy mackerel, what's going on? I get to the front line, and I said, my name's on the list, because Henry was putting my name on the list, and he said, yeah, it's not here. I'm like, what? And he said, is this for Boris? And I was like, no, this is for Starcrawler. And he's like, yeah, we don't have a list for Starcrawler. I'm like,
Oh.
They're playing here, right? And he goes, oh yeah. And I was like, okay, this is odd. So I'm texting Henry. He goes, you got to get to the back of the line and figure this stuff out, because I got to get all these people in here. I go outside and I'm just like, you know what? This has been a total grind to get up here. And I just started walking to my car. And I said, no, that's stupid, Todd. I walked back and I got in line and I waited and I got up to the front and I said, is it sold out? Yes, it's sold out. He goes, but they're almost done playing, so go downstairs and give you anyway, so I got in. And I made my way all the way to the front. And I literally, this is what I hear. I get in there and I go, thank you, Cleveland. And I'm like, what? You gotta be kidding me. Right?
Love it.
So I'm sitting there going, this just keeps getting better in the most facetious way. So I said, well, I know that Henry's going to bop out of there as quick as he can to get back to the merch table, because that's what he likes to do, meet and greet. So I make my way as they're playing out the last song, big ruckus thing, and they put on such a great show. Great band. I head back to the merch table. I'm standing there by myself with the merch guy who's looking at me like, you gonna buy something, buddy? And I'm like, oh, I got to buy Billy a shirt, because he said, hey, give me a shirt. You know which kinds I like, a real cool one, man. And so I said, all right, I got to get Billy a great shirt. So I got him the most expensive shirt up there is a long sleeve shirt. The only reason that matters is because it was $45. That'll come into play in a second. As I'm trying to put everything back in my wallet, I got the shirt between it just kind of pinched between my knees, right? And I hear, oh, hey, Todd. And I turn around, and it's Henry. And I'm like, hey, Henry. And he's playing the guitar. And for those who are familiar with the ballroom, we're dang near at the front door. That's a long stretch. Now, rewind a couple days where we gave him the business about having 100-foot cable. We're like, why on earth do you want a 100-foot cable? He's like, well, I want to go farther out, and do all the things. And I was like, just get a radio pack, No, I want the cable. So here he is with his 100 feet of cable.
Unreal.
Playing the guitar. And I was like, what are we doing? And he goes, here, play it back up. And he puts the guitar on me, hands me the pick, and gives me like a little shove. Well, I got a $45 T-shirt in between my knees.
You're not going to let go of that.
I couldn't ask the guy who owns them to hold it, because I was just stymied. I was like, what's going on? The band's playing, and I'm sitting there and I'm like almost like Chuck Berry and Duck Walk up through all these people back to the front.
You idiot.
And I'm and I'm going, oh my gosh, please don't let me blow this. It was his 3-string baritone. I've never played a baritone, let alone with 3 strings. And I'm like, what is going on? I don't even know what I'm playing. These strings are so heavy. So I'm sitting there playing, and fortunately, the God said, don't worry, Todd, we've got you. And I did it. And I was like, yeah, I'm right in there, right? Get all the way to the front. It's a 5.5-foot stage. My nose is barely peeking over. I'm like, he's like, come on. The manager's like, come on. You got to get up. We got to get the show done. And I'm like, I've got a $45 T-shirt and a guitar and a $5,000 guitar. How do you expect me to get it? And I don't know if it was like one of those things where like when people get stuck under cars and somebody comes up and lifts the car. I got up there. I don't know how I did it.
Did you still have the T-shirt?
I still have the T-shirt on the stage. It's hanging right there. I didn't drop that $45 T-shirt.
Why do you know if like Henry did you solid and picked it up? Said, "Here, let me help you out."
I was futzing with it the whole time. Anyways, so I'm up there, and we had played with them before. So I get up, and the drummer kind of looks at me real quick, double takes, and I was like, "Hey, man, fancy seeing you here." And he's like, "Hey, all right." So we're playing, and then he gives me the, "All right, turn around, let's go," bum, 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 and doing the big bashing and everything. I turn around, it's a sold out crowd. It is awesome. And they're just going nuts, and I'm loving it. I get shuffled off, and I don't know why, but I got approached by like probably about 5 or 6 people. They were like, dude, oh, that was so great. And I was like, what?
That's going to happen. You're up on stage.
It was great. I get back to the table. I wait in line to talk to Henry. Because the whole reason I came out there. And he's like, oh, hey, Todd. And I was like, he's like, hey, you played that guitar before. And I said, no. And he's like, oh. That could have gone very wrong. And I said, no, man, it was great to see you. I literally just wanted to say hi and just, see you and all that stuff. And then I got in my car and went home. So I was literally in the venue for like 15 minutes.
It's the longest drive ever for that.
Yes, that was like.
But look at what it
and
what
parking.
a story!
Yeah, you got a story.
So the moral of that story is, and I could do some funny things there, but like, just go for it. Don't give up on stuff. Stick to your guns.
Okay.
How's that? I can throw in a few other sayings or whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
And don't drop the shirt.
Yeah, that's the most impressive part.
$45 shirt. I'm not dropping it. Anyways, we have a lot to cover. I'm pretty sure. So, because Rob's going to talk. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Oh, ho, 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 ho.
Nowhere near Christmas.
Oh, ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas.
What are you doing?
Merry Christmas.
It's October, Tony.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not Tony. It's Santa. Ho, ho, ho.
It's October, Santa.
It's something new I'm trying. It's called Christmas in October. Ho, ho, ho. Ho, ho, ho. Well, the reason I stopped by, Todd, in case you were wondering, is I'm on my way back from the Bourbon Trail. Needed a break from those pesky elves, and Mrs. Claus was really getting on my nerves. And, well, let's face it, Columbus is on the way back to the North Pole, so I thought I'd stop in and drop off something for the folks here. Oh, where is it? There it is. Oh, I got it out of the package. Oh, I brought a bottle of Eagle Rare 10-year.
Wow.
Oh, that's for everyone to enjoy here.
Rob just ran to get a straw.
Christmas. Yeah, get a straw.
Holy mackerel. Thank you, Christmas, Tony.
Wait a minute,
Yes.
Todd. The real reason I stopped by,
What the heck?
it's Christmas almost.
It's almost Christmas. Yes, we're getting there.
I wanted to drop off something. Santa came a little early this year. And I thought this might be something that I'm told you might be able to use in the not too distant future. So I wanted to drop it off to you.
You got to open it.
Am I supposed to open this?
Open it now, or forever hold your peace.
What is this? A pair of socks?
Oh, guess what kind of socks they are?
Oasis socks.
Now you know the right way to.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, there's a pair of Noel and a pair of
Liam's. You gotta
Liam's.
match them.
Now I prefer Noel because Noel is kind of his name and all.
Yeah.
But the right way to wear it is one of each.
All right. Dunsky. That's very thoughtful of you.
Well, well, I gotta get going. You guys have a show to do.
I had no idea. Yes, we do have a show to do.
All righty. Well, Merry Christmas, everyone.
That's very kind of
And
you.
make sure if you like Christmas in October, let's keep it going all the way. We'll do Christmas in October, Christmas in November, and of course Christmas in December.
Christmas baloney forever.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
What the heck? Oh my gosh. How were you sitting on that? You must have just been busting.
What are you talking about? I didn't
that
know
was
he
very- that was
I didn't know he was coming in.
Really, really fun. Yeah. You went to the bathroom and you missed all the fun, Tony.
Yeah. Did he drop anything off for me?
No,
No.
you did, though.
Oh.
At the bathroom. Okay. Hey. All right, everybody. Let's get schooled by Rob. This is Rob's Amp Power 101 Symposium.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right?
Yep.
So, Rob, go.
So what we're talking about here is the voltage going into the amplifier.
Okay.
So we're not talking about anything with the output, attenuators and reamping or anything like that. So it's just the AC voltage that turns the amplifier on.
Uh-huh.
All righty. So, and what I label this was power management, and that's how I think about it, is that just like you would for, let's say, a delicate computer system or something like that, you want to filter the power.
Condition it, if you will.
Conditioner, yeah, all that kind of stuff.
Hang on, I got to shut the door. All the air's leaving the room. Hang on.
That's a weird thing to say. A few things we're going to talk about here. Power conditioner, which Tony already mentioned, a regulator, and a variac, which is a acronym for variable auto transformer.
Okay. Now, Rob,
Todd.
if I say variac, you say attenuator.
No.
Well,
I say-
you don't, but a lot of people do.
I say Eddie
You
Van Halen.
Right, but a lot of those things are confused by a lot of people,
You're right. I do get
or they're
some.
at least used in the same discussion.
They shouldn't be. Technically, a variable auto transfer variac, we're just going to call it variac from here forward, it technically is an attenuator in a way of thinking. Well, because you can attenuate or lower the voltage coming out of it.
Okay.
So,
or raise it.
or raise it. Exactly. So attenuator can be used to describe an action you can perform by it,
Okay.
but it's not an accurate description of the device. Usually when people say attenuators, this is where I think your thing comes in, Todd.
Okay.
They're really thinking of attenuating the output signal. They're talking about
Right.
inserting something between the amplifier to the speaker
I got
to
a
attenuate.
lot of power that I need to make probably smaller in most cases.
Yeah, and that you're attenuating a signal. You're not attenuating the
Okay.
AC voltage.
We just wanted to get that out of the way because more often than not, a lot of those things.
I probably get one person a week that will. In fact, I just had somebody bring in a 64 Deluxe. I told him he needed, if he wants to use it with a certain tube in a certain situation,
Yeah.
he's going to need a variac or something to bring the voltage down. He said, "Oh no, I have an attenuator." I was like, "What do you have?" And he told me, I was like, "No, you have an
That's
attenuator.
why
You don't
this
have
conversation's
yeah.
important.
Yeah. Musicians don't know. You're right. So, anyways, so let's talk about the different kinds of things that are produced for power management.
Right.
Okay. So, the first thing let's talk about is conditioner. Tony, have you ever used a power conditioner before?
I have. Back
What have
in the
you
day,
used?
Furman power conditioner.
Okay. You don't remember the particular model, do you?
It was a rack mount one, so
Okay. Close enough. So there's kind of different levels of power conditioning. And the very basic ones that most people buy for around $100, maybe $125 or $150 new, is your most basic Furman. Usually, I think they're called the Merit series or the M series. Now, they used to be called something else. Anyways, point of this is it is a very, very, very basic power conditioner. It conditions it or filters noise very slightly, very little filtering, and the surge protection is one-time catastrophic. Surge protection means if you get a spike up to, let's say, 180 volts, it'll stop that spike. One time, it'll blow the component inside of it, and it won't turn back on.
Okay, you just dibble-dabbled in a bunch of interesting things.
Okay, go ahead, Todd.
But you're providing a cure for a symptom that we haven't necessarily identified.
Okay, so power conditioner
Yes.
filters noise, especially in bars.
Noise being like hum
Things
and buzz
from
and
neon signs.
neon
and
signs. Yes.
Fluorescence.
Usually it's fluorescents, which aren't really a thing anymore. Lighting rigs, DMX lighting rigs can
Yeah.
put noise back in the same, if it's a shared power supply. Coolers create an awful hum.
Or Coolio, DMX or Coolio,
Yeah, either
whatever
one.
you like.
But yeah, as like a fan turns on in a cooler or a compressor or
Right.
whatever it is.
A refrigerator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It injects noise into the AC line, then your
Yes.
amplifier takes that and amplifies it.
Everything that's cooling all the juice behind the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So depending on what bar you're in, you're going to get some of that noise. And this, a very basic one.
And that's where the conditioning part comes
Yes.
in. You're not necessarily regulating.
No. Nope. We'll get to that later.
Okay, we are.
Conditioner is it in a basic one will do very little to get
Okay.
rid of some of this noise. Very little, to the point that
Is it kind of like a noise gate for a
No.
amp? It's not like that at all,
Not
people.
like that at
I
all.
don't know why you were sending me those things to tell
No.
me to tell Rob,
no.
whispering in my ear.
No. These are components added to the AC line that filter out the different noises
Okay.
and suppress different noises. Again, the thing on this one that we're talking about, the most basic, cheap, inexpensive
Yes.
conditioner.
Yes.
What I find most musicians buy because it's inexpensive, and they're like, "Oh, this is a surge protector, and will also filter out the noise." So they buy the $121 thing or whatever.
Which is the Furman.
Yeah, well, and Furman makes several different ones. That's why I made the point of saying that, like, for an example is the Furman Merit series, which is their least expensive thing.
Okay.
So it'll do some filtering, minimal noise filtering. Hold on, Todd.
Yeah.
And again, a one-time catastrophic surge protection.
Right.
In realistic terms, so if it gets a huge voltage spike, it'll open and save your amp, right? It'll
Right.
never turn back on again. The thing is now a doorstop.
Okay.
And filtering, it will take out the tiniest bit of noise or just certain noises. I'd say maybe 10% of the time it's actually going to quiet the AC supply. So those least expensive, most basic power conditioners are almost worthless.
Okay. Now, quick question. If you're driving around and you're like, hey, but I've got a Black Star amp. Is that going to help like a Black Star type amp?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Hey, I've got a other kind of totally solid state amp. Is that going to help my amp?
This could help any of it for two reasons. Number one, we're talking about protection.
Hey, I've got a super old vintage amp. Is this going to help my amp?
Yes.
Great. Just checking.
Because for any of these, what you're doing is you're taking out noise that's coming in from the AC power.
Right.
And more importantly, so at least with the basic one, because it really doesn't do much for noise, is you're protecting against a massive voltage spike.
Got it.
Okay. But again, you're spending $120, and if you get a spike once, and that's it. Now, something else about the most basic one, and actually any power.
So when you say a catastrophic failure, it's not going to blow your amp up. It's going to
No.
blow the unit
Yes.
that's protecting
Yes.
the amp up.
Yes.
And then it's done.
and it's done.
And
Well,
then you put it in the.
and technically, you paid somebody to then replace the component that just blew.
You take it to music go around.
But I mean, that's the cost of the unit. So
Sure.
it's
Okay. Got it.
But that's why they're so inexpensive. They're
Got
designed
it.
just
Okay,
to fail
I'm
and
tracking.
move on.
I'm tracking.
Cool. Now that's the most basic El Cheapo one. Let's go with the one that Tony probably bought back in the day, which was like a prestige series from Furman, which is not a one-time catastrophic failure. It has components in there that absorb the spike, shut the unit off, and then after either a period of time or after the voltage drops back in the safe zone, it'll turn back on. So
How often does this happen?
depends on what you do. If you're a working musician that is playing Eagles clubs and then a festival over here running off a generator, then this
Eagle clubs. What's that?
Moose Eagles.
Fraternal Order
You've never,
of the Eagles.
Eagle Club?
yeah, the Eagles.
Hey, do you guys out there know what the heck an Eagle Club is?
Yeah, right now there are lots of working musicians go, yeah, I just played one last night, bud.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So yeah, my point is if
You mean
you're
like a lodge, Moose Lodge?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. VFW, you know,
All right,
they're
okay,
all-
got
yeah.
it.
So, but my point being, and even bars. I've heard horror stories about, Nashville. Some of the main strip there being ridiculously over voltage.
Really? High voltage.
But especially if you're coming across generators and stuff, things can go sideways. I just had a Black Star bass amp in 2 weeks ago that somebody tried to power off a generator.
Oh my.
And it was the first thing they turned on of everything on stage. Beyond repair.
Bloom.
It blew through every single board in the amp.
Oh my goodness.
So they must have had it hooked up for 240 or something. So
240, 241, whatever it takes.
yeah, whatever it takes. So so no, this can be a thing depending on what your circuit is and stuff and where you're at. And like an advanced conditioner, what I call advanced, something like the Prestige series that has that resettable and reusable surge protection.
Yeah.
You buy it once, you put it in a rack. It's $200 to $300 new, and it protects all your equipment forever and ever.
So it's kind of like money laundering for power.
Do I say yes to this or I don't know? I'm looking at Tony. I don't know how to.
That's how it
I don't
works.
even understand what he's talking about. So
That
money
there's a little
laundering
bit of-
for your power.
Well, in a sense, with the whole like money laundering, you bring in a whole bunch of money that could corrupt or get you in trouble. And then they say, no, we're going to take care of it. We're going to mix it with all the other kinds of bills, and we're going to condition the money so it's not as traceable, and then they send it out.
Hey,
No.
Todd,
Have you ever watched that gangster movie?
Todd,
No.
Why don't
But
we,
that's what it's doing.
No. Not yet. That's the
Todd,
next
what?
thing.
why don't we listen to Rob?
He wanted me to ask questions.
I did. That's my fault. I'll take the blame on that.
I hope
That's
you
on
have
me.
questions.
Okay. Well, that's the next thing. So we're building here. So we went from the basic, which doesn't do much
Okay.
at all. We're now at the advanced conditioner where it will reset so we can get hit with these voltage spikes and turn off and turn back on, right?
Okay.
Also, the better power conditioners, back to your thing about filtering, it has much more, what's the word I'm looking for? Not impressive, expansive filtering. So it'll do much more.
Comprehensive filtering?
Comprehensive, yeah. Have more.
Laundering? Does it do laundering too?
Well,
No,
more like
it
level
still doesn't
or
do
more
laundry.
like different types and
Yes.
height, width, depth, not
Yes.
just height.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. All of it. Exactly.
60 hertz, 61 hertz, whatever it takes.
Yeah. They'll do all kinds of stuff. Yeah. But yeah.
All the hertzes.
Yeah. So spending the extra money, what I'm getting to here is if you're going to buy a power conditioner, don't buy the cheaper one. Buy the little better one because it will actually be reusable and it
Like
will do
the
much
Furman
more.
Prestige series.
Yes, like
Okay.
a prestige series. And they've got all these little taglines on it. It's got SMS something and something filtering, whatever. It actually does much more to get rid of all the noise.
That's the first time I've ever heard you discount something that seems really important.
Just like with Ford, they've got something, their EcoBoost. Okay, you're just putting a boost on
I've heard those are really terrible.
that's another show.
Yeah.
But, so that's their tagline. That's the Furman name for it. But whatever. I don't really
Okay.
care what they've marketed it as. I just know it has as much better filtering.
I just looked it up, and you know what it said online?
What is it?
It said the Furman Prestige series, like money laundering for your power.
No.
No. Do not
I know you're
listen to
lying.
him. He lies.
All the time, apparently.
Okay.
So-
What's next?
So hold on. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything.
Okay, so I went out and got this thing. Let's say I go get this.
Okay.
I got it, and I'm dragging it around. Okay, how big is this thing?
One rack space, usually 10 to 14 inches deep.
So I don't have a rack.
Yeah. You
Now
have to
what?
you have to put in a little rack.
So I have to buy a rack for
yeah,
this thing.
tiny little rack. Yeah.
Tiny.
You can get 1 to 2 space rack.
Okay.
And now the nice thing about it, usually these are I think most of the Furman stuff
racks are
is
coming back, so whatever.
is 15 amp. So you can plug anybody's amps, your bass player's amp, anything you
We
want
can
to
plug
protect.
everybody's stuff into the same thing.
Well, as long as it doesn't exceed 15 amps, which for most bands it won't.
Right. But that includes pedal boards and stuff.
Sure.
Aha.
Sure.
See, because I know that's something that you are very adamant about doing gigs, to the point where I adjusted the way that I was doing it because I was like, well, Rob knows this stuff.
Now, and we're taking another Todd detour here. What you're talking about
I'm
there
just trying to work it in.
is limiting ground loop.
Okay.
Well, that's what it is.
Sure.
In point when you're talking about plugging in your pedal
In
board
certain circles.
and your amp in the same outlet or
yes.
same. Yeah. You're trying to minimize a ground loop.
Yeah.
Which can happen in a lot of venues because the way they've wired the venue is
Right.
poo-poo.
Everybody's got plugs all over the place.
Right.
There's power strips laying all over the place.
And you can very easily create a ground loop,
Right.
for yourself. So,
all right.
so on a side note there, yes, guitar
This
players
would
should-
help. This could solve for
Well, yeah, because it's the same thing. What you're talking about there is when we talked forever ago, and I would tell you, make sure you plug your pedal board and your amp into the same outlet or the same power strip, or so the
Right.
grounds are directly connected to each other.
Right.
So by doing
Yeah.
this, yes.
So I got a big heavy cable with like 3 outlets.
Same thing I use, yep.
on the spread on the out, and both of those things go into one big cable that goes into a power outlet.
Yeah.
I thought you were using like those Christmas tree light extension cables on all your stuff.
Not anymore.
Oh, not anymore. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rob.
So anyways, okay, so that's your basic conditioner, your more advanced conditioner. Now let's talk about the next thing. This is where the laundering comes in. I would say maybe this is a launderer.
See, I got him to adopt it.
Yeah, this is what I do with customers. Like they say ridiculous things, and you got to figure out how to speak their language.
Yeah, I know.
So here we go. Here comes the laundry.
Okay.
A regulator.
Regulator.
Example being the Furman Prestige AR series, and I'm just using Furman because they're probably the biggest brand. But other companies make these things too.
Is that a pirate series? The R series.
No, the AR.
AR series.
No, it's not. No. I'm
too
sorry,
bad.
Tony. There's no pirates involved in
That
this.
was-
Yeah, maybe they'd sell more.
Furman's missing out, man.
Yeah.
So here's what a regulator does. It has generally the same filtering and the same surge protection as an advanced conditioner. So it's going to take out a lot of your noise and all that stuff. It will take surges and absorb them several times without damage. In addition, a regulator will now regulate your voltage coming out of it. Where if you have, let's say you have a advanced conditioner, nice firm and power conditioner, and you plug into a wall where there's 128 volts coming in, it's going to spit 128 volts back out. It's going to clean it up, and it's going to keep it from going up to like 200 volts, but a little over like that, it's just going to put it right through. A regulator will not. It'll say, okay, let's clean it up. It's not 200 volts. We'll let it come to this stage, and then we go, oh, now let's bring it down to 120 volts. So it regulates it at that 120. And I think the range that it supposedly regulates is like down to something like 110 or 108 or 106.
How does anybody in the world, as they're trying to get ready for the gig and everybody's hustling, and it's just like, we got the band that just played through like their entire 3-album history, just finally got off the stage. You're like, oh my gosh, everybody's leaving. We got to get on. Like, everybody's just trying to find plugs. Like, how big of an issue? Like, that's a pretty big issue?
Well, it can be.
Can be.
Most players I've turned on to a regulator and what we'll get to later, a variac product, but let's just talk a regulator.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of customers come to me over time and go, one night my rig sounds good. The next night, it just doesn't sound as good. It sounds too harsh, sounds too much of this. And I usually go, you might be picky enough that you need a regulator.
Got it.
And there used to be a guy in town. Do you remember Jeff Liebertor, Tony?
No.
Okay. Local player. People listening to this they're local, will know who Jeff is, but he was a very picky guitar player. And to the point that I love him to death, great guy. He would bring in his amp and say, hey, I think I need new tubes. And I'd be like, really? It seems like we just did this. Look at the history. It's been 6 months. He could hear at that point when they were just wearing.
Jeez.
He could hear it to the point that he would bring me his amp every 6 months for years. No, and he'd never take a receipt. So he'd have no idea when he brought it in last time.
Just every 6 months.
Yeah, and he played at least 2-3 times a week. So he's using it all the time, plus a rehearsal thrown in there. So that's how picky this guy was. And he came to me after a couple of years like, man, I think I can hear a difference. I was like, well, you need a regulator. So he went out, spent the money, about $500, $600 for a regulator. First weekend, texted me, he was like, that was it. He was like, it's consistent every night now because
Wow.
it's spitting out the exact same voltage.
Interesting.
Yeah. So for some guys, it can be a big thing. And again, with a regulator, you still get all the surge protection. You get all the filtering. It now spits out a consistent 120 volts. And a regulator also, a good one, will not just spit out 120 volts, but if you're on a generator that's moving constantly, like 120, 130, 110, 130.
Does that happen?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Why?
Absolutely. They undersize the generator, too long a cable run, so it's dropping voltage.
Oh, you mean like if you're doing an outside gig or something like that?
Well, no, it can happen in a crappy bar too, where they just keep adding circuits.
Okay.
And they don't up the mains supply, or they've tied this cooler in from a circuit that's in the back of the room where now you've got 150 feet of cable. It's going to drop voltage.
Right.
And yeah, I mean,
okay.
We always get the absolute worst case scenario as musicians. We are the afterthought. What do you mean? Just plug in, it'll work. Plug everybody in the same outlet, you'll be fine.
Right.
So that actually happens. And the nice thing about a regulator is, as all these things are going up and down and everything, it'll spit out 120, usually until it gets to about 160 or so volts.
Uh-huh.
So even at like 150 volts, it'll absorb all of that and still spit out constant voltage.
So what you're saying is there's a whole bunch of stuff that can get you in trouble that's going into this thing, but what it's spitting out is something that is
laundering
clean.
it.
Exactly.
There you go.
Bringing it home, boys.
There you go.
Bringing it home. See, everybody?
A regulator
you
is
just
a
stick
launderer.
with me. We'll get this done.
Thanks, Todd.
What would we do without
Yeah.
you?
Joe Pesci is nodding emphatically somewhere.
And I'll tell you this, I would say 9 out of 10 touring bands will have a regulator on every one of the rigs on stage. Everybody's rig has a dedicated regulator.
Doesn't that, you just said if you put them all into the one, it's fine.
You can, but we're also, I'm talking about bands that are playing larger things. They may have 2 or 3 amps that each
like
draw.
larger.
Well, yeah, I'm like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not necessarily a VFW band, but
No.
yeah, like somebody that would play.
Like Starcrawler?
I assume so.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never seen them, so I don't know. But yeah, I'm just trying to think of anybody. There was a tour that came through here some time
somebody
ago.
that played like Danny Warhol's at the Newport.
There you go. Each one of their rigs will have a regulator on it.
Interesting.
Yep.
I'll ask him.
Yeah, definitely. And there was somebody that came through here just recently. It was 3 bands where all 3 bands were tube amplifiers, all analog rigs. Can't remember who it was. They played it nationwide. It was one of the bigger venues. Big tour. I want to say it was Paramore and 2 other bands, but I could be wrong. But all 3 of the bands were running regulators on every single rig. They had like a big rig rundown article I saw.
Yeah, cool.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because it's pretty much necessary if you want to be consistent and then safe. You got to protect this gear. So,
Interesting. All right. You're warming me up to this, man.
It's a thing. It is a thing. And some people won't notice the difference, but 9 times out of 10 when I tell people about this, and they've already brought up, yeah, my rig sounds different. I'm happy with it here, but not here. And especially if they're using tube amps, which are more sensitive.
So let me ask you this, Rob. I can't. The closest thing I have, I'm this hypothetical situation.
Mm-hmm.
I just showed up at the venue, and the wall outlet is like totally on the other side of the stage, but they've run a cable with a power strip. Do I plug my amp into that?
Yeah. The power strip on its own
not
is not
expecting that.
inherently bad.
Okay.
I mean, if that's your option, what are you going to do? I mean,
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
Yeah.
You seem to have all the answers, Rob.
a power strip is not going to cause a problem. A power strip, though, anybody like gigging with the little $12 Amazon power strip, that's worthless. That's going to do almost nothing at all to protect anything at all. By the time that blows, your amp's already taken the voltage.
Yeah.
So, that's really worthless if you're doing that.
Taking the voltage right up the amp.
Pretty much, yeah. Okay, so that takes care of all the typical power management.
Yeah.
Now let's get to the thing that is specialized or really only used for us guitar players.
Attenuators.
No.
Oh.
Can you kick him out or silence him?
Yeah, I'll work with you. Channel 1.
Yeah. A variac, Todd.
Okay.
So a variac
Yes.
is a variable auto transformer. That is the technical name for it. It is a transformer, and what happens as you turn a big knob on it is it decreases or increases slightly the output voltage.
Okay.
So when you plug this into the wall and you have it turned down all the way, you plug something into the outlet from the variac, you get zero volts. You turn it up 1 volt increments, all the way up to usually about 140 volts.
So why would anyone need that? I mean, everybody knows when you plug in, I mean, you have voltage that's just all standard
And it works. Well, let me tell you where this came from. Test equipment and design, and they're benchtop variacs usually, which are kind of funny-looking, big metal round cylinders with a knob on the top of it and sometimes a meter. Not very friendly to carry around.
Like a big egg cooker or something.
Yeah, kind of like that. And I guess you could cook eggs too. Yeah,
An egg cooker.
Yeah, an egg cooker.
What?
it's too old.
Anyways,
Too young, too old. Yeah. So the job of a variac is to turn its voltage down to nothing. And I use on the bench all the time because I'll slowly bring up an amplifier, 20 volts, 40 volts, to see if anything's shorted, make sure the voltages are looking good.
Or if you're replacing filter caps.
Or like when I'm replacing filter caps, because I want to check the voltages. And sometimes I make mistakes and something's plugged in backwards.
No.
It happens.
No.
you know what happens when that happens? High voltage.
Boom happens.
Thunder.
Smoke comes out. So that's where the variac originally came from. Where guitar players started using it was
Eddie Van Heusen, I think.
yeah,
Or Halen, that's the guy.
yeah. That's the guy that started the insanity.
Blowing up Marshall amplifiers.
Yeah, wasn't there something where for a while the theory was that he was over voltage?
No, he was under, because it's from the, okay, so the story that I got was, and we should really ask Chris Gill about this, but the story that I got is he was in England and they were touring and he went into that wall, which was like, I believe, underpowering it. And that allowed him to get like this really rich tone out without having the insane volume. I know
So
I could have that wrong, but I'm
he-
pretty sure that's what.
He's wrong.
Well,
He's basically, I mean, he was browning out the amps.
Chris, you gonna
So
back
when
me
we
up on
call
this?
when we call browning out an amp, that it's typically the sound that you hear when you just flip off the amp
And hear
so he was trying to get a highly distorted sound,
right.
but not as loud.
That's what I literally just said.
Now, and this goes back to my question of you. I'm remembering from 25, 30 years
Yes,
ago.
and I believe that was wrong.
There were rumors or things running around. Maybe it was actually back in the 80s that Eddie was actually increasing the voltage to his amps. That's what he was using it for.
No, because he plugged it in and he was like, wait a minute.
No, Ty said rumors. There were rumors.
Okay, all right.
There were rumors.
All right.
And some people have even floated that it was Eddie himself saying this. So
Yeah.
people wouldn't copy him and wouldn't do his thing. And
Yeah, and
you know,
all it really did that blew up.
that would
amplifiers.
blow. That would boom pow an amp. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Eddie. Supposedly he liked to run his vintage Marshalls around 90 volts, way low,
Right.
way low. And what I've heard, not so much for the tone of it, but that he liked the sound of the amps when they were cranked.
Right.
But
Didn't
venues
want
are
the
saying
volume.
you're too loud.
No,
Yeah.
that's exactly.
Yeah.
But the whole point is that, from what I understand, that was kind of discovered on accident because he went into it and he was like, "Wait a minute,
yeah, I don't
that's
know.
the sound that I'm trying to. This is what I've been going for. Why is this happening?
Yeah, well, maybe.
I could be wrong. I probably am, but Chris Gill,
If history taught us anything, Todd,
it's that
He's consistently wrong.
60% of the time I'm right, 90% of the time.
but it has been proven, yes, he liked
Yes,
to run
okay.
him low at 90
Regardless,
volts.
that's what's going on.
Yeah. So that's, I would say, kind of, and of course other people were doing this around the same time too, but he was the person everybody was
Well,
paying
he had the
attention
biggest
to.
spotlight.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Well, let's talk about, especially when it comes to vintage amps, because as I remember, I mean, I wasn't around, but like in the 50s and the 60s, typical voltage from the wall was what, around 112 volts?
Yes, and on a good day.
Yeah. And so when a lot of these great amplifiers were made, they were working off of a circuit that was looking for 112 volts.
Yeah.
Low.
And behold,
We get to the modern tolerances, which is closer to 120. ish on depending on where you are in the city.
If we would plug in right here, I would be shocked if we were any lower than 125.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have a multimeter home, right?
Yeah.
Okay. When you go home tonight, plug into your outlet.
Okay.
If at least 122, 124,
Is that
125.
safe? You just put. Is that the best way to do that? Like if you're going to a venue, is that a good idea?
Sure. Put it on the AC setting, stick it in.
You're
not going to hurt anything.
Touch the prongs.
Yeah, you don't lick your fingers and then check it first. No. Hold the rubber part of the prongs,
Right.
not the metal parts.
Yeah.
Put them in the outlet.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's perfectly fine
Perfectly.
to do.
That's exactly what it's there for. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think every guitar player should carry a El Cheapo multimeter.
Yeah.
As a test, if nothing else, be like, okay, it's not crazy. It's not 134 volts.
You know what? That just gave me see. I get all these good ideas, and I'm like, dang it! I wish I could act on this. You know, what'd be amazing is if we had a brand called El Cheapo,
El Cheapo.
and it was just really affordable stuff that does the trick.
I don't know if I would want to buy something that said El Cheapo.
No, because it'd be you'd make it. That's the. Anyways,
Yeah.
somebody out there, go do that.
Okay, well, there we go.
Just give me a little kickback, will you? All right. Go ahead, Rob.
How about mucho bueno?
No, stop. Go, Rob.
So what were we talking about before you interrupt us again?
So
the volts,
typical wall voltage.
Vintage.
And
back in the 60s,
So when these amps were designed, that's your favorite Fender Twin or Princeton or your Marshall or anything.
Let's say 65 Fenders.
Okay.
Designed around 112 volts.
Okay.
Yep.
So now you
So
plug
anything under 1970.
General rule.
general.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So
Right.
I plug,
Domestic. UK is a whole different story.
Dang it.
So I plug my 65 amp that's looking for 112 volts, but out comes 124 volts.
Yep.
What does it do to the amp?
I have an amp go on its way out tomorrow and another one on its way in on Monday that is exactly this scenario. Fender Deluxe Reverb. 120 volts in, or I'm sorry, 112 volts in with a vintage rectifier tube gives the amps just under 400 volts, high voltage, 400 volts DC. When you go to 120, you're putting 8 extra volts AC, or let's say 124. I like your example, 124, which is more realistic. So you get 12 volts AC in. That's going to be somewhere around 50 volts more DC voltage inside the amp. So now your amp's running around 450 volts.
Holy
That's hot.
mackerel.
That's hot, especially for 6v6s that are usually, you look at a data sheet of a 6v6, and they usually top out at 350 to 400 volts.
So you can blow some tubes here.
You do blow tubes.
You do blow tubes.
I get this all the time with the Deluxes and Princeton reverbs.
So if you do have a vintage amp, you really, really, really should be considering getting.
Depending on the exact model.
You got especially if it's an expensive one.
Yeah, and some of them are known that they operate in that zone that if you put much more above the 112, 114 into it, you're going to cause damage. But like you said, 70s, anything early 70s or earlier, I find most people, even if it's not a safety thing, if there is enough tolerance built into the design of the amp that can take the higher voltages, they usually prefer the sound of them at the originally intended voltages.
Right.
Okay. So let me ask you this. So we were over here this weekend messing around with the Sound City Concorde. And that's Dallas Arbiter, UK built. That's going into the wall. Is that safe? The reason I asked that because you said only domestic. So help me out with the.
Well,
What tubes are in that? Power tubes.
EL34s. I don't know. I was going to say EL34s, but I don't know. It's been too long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on how the amp's designed. I don't know without seeing the amp.
Well, you did see it.
Yeah,
You got
it was.
intimately
You know how many
involved
amps
with it.
that was? I have no idea what the voltage is in that thing.
Yeah, I think with vintage amps, having something, whether it be a variac or there's also the brown box.
Right.
Thank you for mentioning the brown
Okay,
box.
cool.
Let's talk about that.
What is the
Let's
brown
do
box,
it.
Tony?
So it is a reasonably portable variac that has a digital readout, so you can actually see what voltage is coming in and going out.
Those are like $300, right?
350.
350.
Yeah.
350. Yeah, and just like Tony said, it's about the size of a brick. It's about the weight of a brick.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's easier to move around than the round, awkwardy benchtop
Oh yeah,
variac.
I mean a variac. That's got to be what 30 pounds.
Holy moly.
20-ish, 18, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
Right. So if you got a
heavy and awkward.
$3,000 amp, get a $350 protection. thing.
Yes, and you can use it with every amp after this forever
every
and ever
amp.
and ever. Every
Yeah.
amp, right? And like Tony said, it's a nice digital readout when you plug it in, and it's bypass, so it's not attenuating anything before you plug in any of your amps or anything. It'll tell you what's coming out of the wall. So it's like a multimeter, basically. It'll tell you, oh, you're running 126 volts. So you can go, whoa, this is definitely too hot.
Yeah.
And then you can turn it down in notches. It has like a 1% or 2% drop or whatever. So you,
So you can get it down to 110.
yeah, 12-ish, yeah.
12.
And that's exactly what happened with the brown box. You can get down to, let's say, 111, and then the next jump is 115, and the next jump is, so you can get, and plus or minus a volt or two, you're not going to notice the difference.
Sure.
But
But
yes.
50, yes, you will.
Well, and that's the DC voltage. That's and generally, whatever you put into it is multiple of 4 or 5. So
Okay.
that's different. But here's a point, too.
Don't worry about the math. Just go get this thing.
Well, hold on.
All right.
Variac and brown box is a big thing. I actually made a note on this. They do not have any filtering, no surge protection, and no regulation.
Okay.
Its only job, all it does, it's a very dumb, simple device that says, oh, this voltage come in. I don't know what it is, but you can turn this knob and it lowers it or increases it slightly for a variac. A brown box is only lowering.
It cuts it, yeah.
Okay.
That's important. So a brown box is like a dumbed down tool for musicians. We only go
But
lower.
are you really going to need, I need more voltage out of this?
No.
No, and it's probably not safe to do that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, absolutely. And that's why the brown box doesn't offer it. Nobody needs that.
Right.
They just distilled this down to, and I
It's
love
literally called
brown
the
box.
Amp RX Brown Box.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And again,
I've seen them, but just verifying that
yeah,
for everybody else.
wonderful, wonderful tool. And back to talking about that tour I saw where they were using the regulators.
Yeah.
All those rigs were running a regulator into a rack mount brown box.
Interesting.
So they were first regulating at 120, and the thing there is that
So
the
there's
voltage.
2 racks now.
Well, there's just.
Well, you got
there's-
you got a cleanser,
Right.
no conditioner,
and the brown box rack mount's
And
like
then
a 2 rack
right, so
space.
that's
thing.
2.
Yeah, well, right, but
Okay, see,
they're pushing
Keep that
around
right
7
again.
trucks full of gear. They don't care if they're
I'm
carrying.
just but for those who aren't,
Well, yeah, then this, actually, it would take up a 3 rack space.
if you're
unit.
insisting on bringing in your
Well,
old
duct
plexi,
tape it to the top of your amp.
Yeah, or
Sure.
that. I mean, his size, yeah. But that's important. First, it regulates it at 120, and then it attenuates it, reduces it down to whatever let's say 112. And by using those two together, no noise comes through, surge protection, and it stays consistent at whatever you set it at. Whereas if you just use a brown box alone, if you're plugged in at a fair and the voltage goes up and down, your voltage is still going to go up and down to your amp.
Oh.
Just attenuated.
That would make sense because there's a couple gigs where I did like, what
and your
the
rig just
heck is
doesn't
going
sound
on?
right or just doesn't feel
it
right.
sounded terrible.
It's voltage. It is the supply voltage.
Wasn't me, everybody.
And I bet you if you could have plugged in multimeter, you'd be like, oh, well, there it is. It's 130 volts out of the outlet. No
Now
wonder.
let's just now for those that aren't necessarily gigging out and dragging their super nice gear all over the place. What about your house? Is this a thing in your house?
Oh, sure. Most, especially if you live in a newer neighborhood, you're going to be on the tall side of this, 126, 128.
Okay.
Yeah, all day long. Yeah.
Okay. And a let's say, so you got higher voltage coming in, and maybe you don't have like super expensive old gear, but maybe you've got some nice new amps. Okay, you got your Dr. Z, you got your new Vox, you got your new, whatever.
Yep.
Well,
out there.
but the thing is, with newer gear, they tend. I mean, if they're designed for 120, and they also have more internal regulation in terms of trying to stabilize the voltage, and these things have been designed for something that's putting out another 8 to 12 volts.
I'm listening to Tony, but looking at Rob.
Okay. No, I'm letting him. This is a perfect question. Perfect question. Yes and no. Some amps may have this extra voltage regulation, suppression, filtering in it. 9 times out of 10, there is not extra regulation or filtering for the high voltage. By the nature of the design of a tube amp, that changes how the amp actually functions.
So, in other words, you should only use solid state amps.
Well, kind of the same thing. Solid state can only, I mean, the amps have been designed a certain way. But where I thought Tony was going with this too, a lot of new amps, like let's say a Dr. Z or the reissue Fenders or reissue Voxes, those are pretty faithful recreations of old circuits that, guess what, were originally designed
Right.
For 112.
112.
Okay, so here's another quick question. We got the little film sound amp over there from Hello Sailor. Mm-hmm. So that's probably getting goosed going to the wall.
I don't know
right?
the history. I don't know when that thing was,
Well,
what
I
it
know
was
that's
designed. I don't know.
That's the card you pull out of your wallet every time. But generally speaking, that's an amp built in the 40s.
If it were mine,
Yes.
I would only run it max 112, 114.
Got it.
If it were mine.
Yeah. I mean, it should say on the back what
I'm sure it does.
what it says.
It just says it in English, in England-ish.
Well, then, and that's a little different because a lot of the stuff, so they run, and they've had 230, 240 over there for a long time. Most of their stuff, when they designed it for multiple primaries to work on, in domestic Canadian or U.S. and European circuits, they take the higher voltages. They were wound slightly under for domestic circuits. Point being is that you can apply 120 volts to a vintage Marshall, and it's going to be right about where the specs say it should be.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can still pull them down, but in some cases, I've even had some old Marshalls that were like 380 volts to a pair of EL34s at 120 volts. I was like, man, that's low, and that's the transformer was underwound.
Okay.
And we won't get into why
Yeah.
it's the design of a transformer. That's why it happens more with things that are designed with multiple
It
primaries.
seems as though there's more than meets the eye to this conversation.
There is, and let's not go into all that. Let's just say in general, most of the vintage tube amps below, transformers, before the mid 70s will almost definitely benefit from this.
Okay.
And again, I would say 9 times out of 10, when I turn a customer on to a brown box, say, try this. You've got 3 vintage amps. You got a Fender this, you got a Vox this, a Marshall this. Try a brown box. They usually come back and go, yeah, I prefer it on all of them. On the Marshall, I like it at 118. On the Fender, I like it at 110, yada, yada.
Interesting.
So,
As soon as we're done with this, we're going to go over and look at those.
yeah, definitely. And I was hoping Billy could be here because he just brought in a Sound City. Was it a Sound City? No, what did he just? Sun. He
Yeah,
brought in
his
Sun.
Sun,
Yeah. And I told him he has to use a brown box.
Whoa, what? Well, I've been using this thing without a brown box the whole time, man.
Did you really sound like the drunk guy from Simpsons?
No, he's the bus driver.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hey, get on board, little dude.
Yeah. But yeah, so I told Billy he absolutely has to use it if he's going to use it all and not turn above 112 volts because the high voltage in that at 120 volts exceeded the value of the capacitors. So literally, if he would plug it into the
Blowing
wall,
caps.
it would blow
So
the
he's
caps
gotten
we just
pretty
put
lucky
in.
at this point.
Well, he said he just bought this one that he brought in.
Oh, okay. Or maybe his other one is still over here. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, and another one might be a different circuit,
Right.
but this particular one he brought in,
Well, you don't have to twist his arm to get more gear.
he ordered it immediately. Yeah.
I was going to say, you're like, okay.
And I was surprised he didn't have one already because I was talking to him. I was like, well, what gear do you have? He's like, well, I got this. I'm
Oh,
like,
he's got
how
tons
can you
of old
not
amps.
have, right? How, you of all people,
Yeah.
So I'd be interested to hear his feedback in a week or two after he tries it with different stuff.
Yeah. Interesting.
But in his case, it wasn't even a thing like preference or even maybe this will shorten tube life like it does with the Deluxe or Princeton Reverb.
Right.
This is your amp will go boom pow very shortly.
Interesting.
So that can also happen,
How does it go?
Boom pow.
Oh,
Yes.
You hear a boom and then the echo pow.
I had that at a Chinese restaurant once.
Yeah, probably way better than what I'm talking about. So let me look on here, make sure we're not missing anything here. We're talking about domestic amps, originally designed. Tony brought that up. Vintage amps. Oh, this is going to current amps. There is a chance with more current amps that have channel switching that you won't be able to use a brown box or a variac.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Because of the channel switching amps, they have the high voltage that supplies the tubes, but then there's usually a low voltage supply like 12 volts, 15 volts, 24 volts that controls the channel switching, the LEDs and all that stuff. And that's very sensitive. So there's a chance that if you bring it down too much, 108, 105, maybe even 110. I had something like an Engel once that wouldn't go below 112 or 114 and it would turn off. So there's a chance.
That's exactly why I sold mine.
Yeah. So there's a chance with some new channel switching amps, and generally the channel switching amps are not barring old designs anyways. So to Tony's point, those are usually more safe at 120. Just put them at 120, leave them, they'll be fine. It's more the amps that are boutique-y, no channel switching. It's a new version of an old Vox that it might benefit.
Anybody that's copying, like the reproducing,
borrowing.
Yeah, well, like exact the way it used to be, but a new box kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah, if you've got LEDs and channel switching on your amp, try a brown box. You're probably not going to notice much benefit from it. It's not going to be a safety thing.
So would you say the biggest trouble spots would be tube amplifiers?
100%.
Does it matter what type of rectifier is in it?
Not as not across the board. Not meaning like, Tony, if you have this particular rectifier, it's always going to need a variac. No, it's got more to do with the overall circuit design.
Okay.
Which, yes, a variac can be part of that problem, or not variac. The rectifier tube can be part of that problem.
Okay.
And yes, I will say rectifier tubes in general, that can be another point of failure versus an amp that has solid state rectifier. Solid state will take much more voltage and just rectify it.
Yeah.
Where a tube, if you put too much in, it can also cause that to fail.
Okay.
So yes.
Why do they call it a rectifier too?
Because it rectifies the voltage.
I know you just said that. Hey,
Yeah, okay. I didn't know if you like blacked out again. As you have to do. What are we doing?
No. Silly.
He did black out for a second.
Yeah, I know he did.
He started talking math and boy, it just
I know.
glazes right over.
It's true. It happens. That's why I'm here, ladies and gentlemen, to help usher you back into things when you black out too from math.
Thank you. There are three other things I want to talk about really quick, though.
No,
Yeah.
take your time.
We haven't talked about, we want to lower the voltage in a vintage amp so it works like it was originally intended.
Right.
May protect the amp, yada, yada, yada. What about sound?
What about sound?
What is it going to do to the sound?
What's it going to do to the sound, Rob?
I was going to ask you, what's it going to do to the sound?
Well, I was going to ask you, Tony. Have you used the variac
I'm
on?
thinking it makes it better.
I have used only in kind of shop circumstances. And to me, when you, and maybe it's just my ear, or maybe it's just my head, I think when you run them the way they were designed, in this case, let's just say it's an old Fender, if you run it at 112, it sounds better. I think you get a little more headroom, maybe. I've even, and now when you start reducing the voltage, that's when it starts to maybe break up more. It starts to get a little ratty sounding. The volume level does go down. I don't think I've never increased voltage because I figured that was a big no-no.
Right.
But if you bring it down to that sweet spot, 112ish, maybe 110, 100, even as low as 100. But you definitely get tonally a lot different amplifier.
100%. 100%. And how I usually describe it with people, you'll get a more, in parentheses, vintage sound from the amp. And
Like a little sweeter, maybe.
yeah, and response.
And response.
That might be equal, if not even more. So if you're
When you're saying
blindfolded,
response, are you talking about like pick attack response?
yes,
Okay.
all of it. How when you hit a note, how it decays, the dynamic response of it, how it breaks up. Like you hit the string this hard, with it at 120 volts, it's running a higher plate voltage. It will have more output. It'll be pushing all the tubes harder. And they'll be actually biased a little hotter at that 120 volts. And when you turn it down to, let's say, 112, you're reducing the starting point of your output.
Okay.
So
you raised a good point about biasing. So if you do decide to buy a brown box or a variac or whatever, and you want to run it at 112, do you also need to rebias your tubes?
You should. It depends on how the amp is actually biased to begin with.
Okay.
As you decrease the voltage, this may seem counterintuitive. As you decrease the voltage, so let's just go back to a Fender Deluxe Reverb because that's a problem child. That has a negative.
We got all kinds of AC/DC in this show. It's crazy.
That has a negative fixed bias applied to the output tubes, right? It's a fixed voltage.
Okay.
As you turn down your source voltage, all the voltages will decrease. But what happens is that the ratio is not the same between the bias and the high voltage. As you turn down the voltage to a Fender Deluxe Reverb, you go from 120 to 112. It is actually biased hotter.
Oh.
I know it's counterintuitive.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense, but
Yeah.
I'll take your word for
What's happening is that the bias voltage is not going down proportional to the high voltage.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's the problem. So if you have an amp that's biased very hot, whoever you just took to biased it very hot because you wanted that always breaking up kind of sound, you now put in your brown box, you turn it down to 108. Yeah, you could chew through some output tubes.
Yeah.
Because it'll increase it even more.
So like a Mesa Boogie, for instance.
All of those, if it's a factory setting, they're so cold, you can turn it all the way down. It's not going to be too hot.
Okay.
Those things, they often come through biased at 30% idle plate dissipation.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's ridiculous. Yeah, the tubes are halfway turned off. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But back to your Fender amp, it's going to be a thing. So usually I tell people, with the Deluxe Reverb, I just tell them, hey, you're going to have to use this if you want it to be reliable. Mm-hmm. But another amp, okay, you're going to use this consistently. You found that you like it at 112. Stop by, let me adjust the bias for 112. Or when people bring in vintage amps, I'll ask them usually, if they're not already a customer, I'll go, do you use a brown box? And they go, yes, I use a variac and I put it at 114. I will bias it for 114 voltage and I put it right on the receipt. So there's record of it, all that stuff.
Interesting.
Now, the amps where it won't make a difference are your Voxes or most anything that's classified as Class A, cathode biased amp, a lot of Dr. Z stuff. It, quote, auto biases,
Right.
it biases in a different way, and that doesn't change when you turn the voltage. It changes negligibly.
Okay.
So that you can just turn down at will and have fun.
So a Class A, B, or...
Class AB will have a negative bias supply almost always on, and that will need to be adjusted.
So there's probably somebody out there driving around right now saying, hey, guys, I know you can't hear me, but I've been playing bars and stuff my whole dang life. And I've got all of my sweet vintage gear, and I've never had a problem. What do we say to those folks?
There are some people out there, just like there are some people that can plug into a Line 6 whatever amp, Spider amp, and swear it sounds just like a Marshall, Plexi.
So it may not have blown up, but you may not. You may have. Let's say you may have paid a lot of money to have this really amazing vintage sweet sound that you're not actually getting the sound that you should be getting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you may just not have a
So
reference
it's not
point.
necessarily always damage.
Not always damage. Exactly. But yeah, you may be unaware. And then there's a certain percentage of people out in the wild that can't hear or feel the difference. They just can't.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's bad. It's just, but
It just is.
those are the guys that but they're also typically not the ones that this product speaks to, a variac or something, because they can't appreciate and why having a Princeton and why having a old Deluxe and Deluxe Reverb, and they don't,
Sure.
they're like, well, they all sound the same. Where typically the nerd that appreciates all those can hear and appreciate the slight difference.
Gotcha.
With
Gotcha.
the variac,
So our friend Joe Bonamassa must have like 20 variacs on stage.
I bet you, if you reach out to him, I bet you he's got a regulator and.
Yeah, if I had to guess, because of all of the amps that he runs at the same
He's got
time.
like 10 amps going.
Yeah. I would think he would have something like that. I'll reach out and
It'd be
ask him.
interesting to
Yeah.
find out. Does he
Just
just
find
do
out what he
one, or
uses.
does he do everyone's got its own thing?
Yeah.
I bet everything's got its own thing.
I think he just like daisy chains into a cheap old power strip in the back.
Like a
Wouldn't that be great if he's just like, no, I like the old Sears Roebuck power strip. That'd be
I use
hilarious.
the one spot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You definitely reach out. I'm curious what I bet she's gonna come back that, and he'll know. I was gonna say maybe his tech would only know, but no, he'll know. He'll know.
He'll know.
What regulator and yeah.
Now, if I had to guess, I'm sure he's got at least a
does all
variac
of
or
it.
2 or 12
Yeah.
or 100.
If you want to talk about crazy variacs, I'll send you a link on this where you can search on YouTube. AC/DC. They use a
Are you saying that just because we made that mention?
nope.
Okay.
Because they are this crazy. They noticed years ago when they would take their Marshalls to Japan and here, it would sound drastically different because they'd flip the switch to 100 volts, flip to 120, whatever, right? So they got this thing. I think it's a Japanese company, and it's a power supply that you can adjust to any secondary voltage. So you can set it to 240, 230, whatever, and it will accept any input voltage.
Okay.
So it'll auto transform both directions, right? And it's also a regulator, of course, all that kind of stuff. So they like running their Marshalls at, I'm just going to throw out a voltage, 232 volts, UK, right? Because it's UK stuff. And I don't know what it actually is, but I'm just throwing out that volt. That's what they like, right? They can now take their rig anywhere, and this huge box is actually, it's massive. It's something like 60 pounds. It's like a big square. And it will spit out that voltage anywhere in the world.
Wow.
That's
It's like
interesting.
12 grand.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
If you're AC/DC, yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, so if you want to go real crazy, there's like insane amounts of people do put into this stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't use that, your amp's going to make a bunch of noise, and then you get a squealer.
Or flames shoot out the back.
Yeah, that's squealers.
Yeah, a song
Anyways.
name. Yeah. I got it. He didn't
ladies
get
and
it.
gentlemen,
Yeah, I
yes,
didn't get it, so.
It's okay. Rob, is that it?
I
Is
think
that all we need to worry
I think
about?
that's about it. You, Tony?
So at bare minimum, here's what I would say to the lay folk out there that may have blacked out during the math.
I know. I tried not to get deep in
No,
that either.
it's good. It's good that you're doing that. I mean, we need to get pushed. We need to, expand our learning. But correct me if I'm wrong, but I think generally speaking, if you're playing in your basement, go check the outlet with the multimeter. Just for your own knowledge sake,
Sure.
and in your own learning, and saying, oh, wow, okay, it's actually higher than I thought it was. It's at 127. It should be 120 or under. I don't
Yeah.
know.
And then from there, you can make a determination. Go, well, yeah, but I'm just using this Black Star. It
Right.
sounds fine.
Right.
I'm good.
And it's not that is a lesser or
No.
a more amp. It's just it handles it.
It's
right?
definitely going to be less sensitive than a.
right.
Yeah.
Than something older. And in that, if you've recently invested in like the amp you've always wanted, that was a lot of money and it's filled with tubes, that might be something to protect. Yeah. Or like we said before, it doesn't mean it's going to necessarily blow up, but you might not be getting the sound that you paid for.
And again, I go back to this
It's
customer.
like having a catalytic converter on a Ferrari.
Okay. The customer just brought in a 64 deluxe reverb, and he's never owned a vintage amp before. He's had boutique amps, but they've all been newer stuff. And he brought it in, he was like, it just doesn't sound right. And there were a couple things. And then when he picked it up, I put it at 120 for a second, let him play on it, put it at 112. He's like, oh, it sounds so much better. What'd you do? I was like, I dropped the voltage.
So is it like, does it take some of the, is it like
Yes.
harsh?
Harsh, high end. It's not as immediate. You hit a note and it takes a second for it to bloom. It can result in more headroom because the starting point for the maximum output is a little lower.
Okay.
It putting it at the higher voltage makes it just sound like it's more electrified. It's got
Right.
more to it, and it's not as vintage and dynamic and round. It's very rare that people like those vintage amps at the higher voltage.
Right.
And not a sight thing. So I've done this where I've changed the voltage so the guy doesn't know which way I'm going
So your
with it.
amp is essentially Kramer kicking in the door.
With the higher
to
voltage.
Jerry's room.
It's more of that. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more like that. Tony put it very well where it's sweeter and
Yeah.
So I think the one takeaway, among other things, is if you're looking to lower the overall volume, none of these are probably the best solution.
If you
No.
weren't listening earlier, Tony, we covered that. The attenuator, this is not.
No, but you do get a drop in volume by browning the amp
Yes.
out a little bit.
Yeah.
But this is not the
much,
best
though, right?
way. If you want to reduce volume, you're better off on the output stage.
Yeah.
This is just strictly trying to, one, protect your amp gear, and two, make it operate at the voltage that it was designed to operate.
I would agree. Yeah. The point where you perceivably notice a real volume difference, not how it attacks or dynamics, is 100 volts, 105.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty stinking low. And then the whole amp will respond different. And I tell customers, they're like, what can I do? Sure. There's no rules here. You can go as low as you want, as long as the thing turns on. And if you prefer that sound, have at it.
Right.
I'll be shocked if you like, because if you already like this amp at 120, I'll be shocked if you
That's
like
like running
what's
a
going to
used
happen to
battery
it.
on a fuzz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it just doesn't, it's not, and it might be a neat
It
sound
might
on
be a
a
neat
certain.
sound, but it's not the way it was intended.
There you go. That's very good, Todd.
See?
That was a very good.
Hey,
insight.
I got more.
Well, that's all we got time for today.
All right. Speaking of all we have time for, Tony,
Yeah.
you have our Would You Rather for today.
Yeah, I guess so, if I have
I was hoping we'd get away with that.
to. Yeah, this will be a simple one.
Okay.
So, at this point of the show is a little game we like to play called Would You Rather? This week's Would You Rather. So, you're driving up to Cleveland
Okay.
and you're going to see your favorite band, and you happen to know someone in the band, and you get there and they're saying, "Good night, Cleveland, we love you," which means they're going to do an encore. So you wiggle your way backstage because you've got a special pass.
Okay.
You see.
Yes.
And your friend says, "Hey, come on up on stage for our encore."
Okay.
And of course, you know the song.
Is anyone else having deja vu?
I know.
It's just
Sounds
me.
very
Okay.
familiar.
I'm just gonna put
It's
that
like
out there.
deja vu all over again.
Yeah, weird.
Now, the problem with this is there are only two open instruments to play. One is a Fender Bass 6, and two, a Fender Electric 12.
Oh, with the stupid banana thing, the droopy banana that looks like.
Don't call it stupid.
It looks like
just
it
because
looks
you
like
don't
the-
understand it.
That's
don't call
imparting
It
it-
looks like
bias.
the
Don't do that.
popsicle in
we
Clockwork
call
Orange.
in the music in the guitar world we call that the hockey stick
Right.
headstock.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about again?
So
Basics or a
you got to
12
choose between: would you rather jam with your
How's the-
favorite band?
How's the bass 6 tuned?
It's
string with the pegs up front, like.
I mean, they're
like
designed to
everything
tune
else.
E to E, just an octave low.
That's why I was
Yeah.
making sure it's not something like a B or a C.
No.
Okay,
I mean,
okay,
some
okay.
people do tune them
E.
like a.
Yeah, because it's a funny scale length. It's kind of actually in between.
yeah, it's
It shouldn't be down an octave.
Funny
but it
like
is,
how?
yeah. Funny like haha. Do I
do
amuse you?
amuse you? So, would you rather jam with a bass 6 with your favorite band for the encore performance, or would you rather jam on the Electric 12?
Okay. Whoo, doggies.
Do we know what kind of music this is?
It's your favorite band.
Oh,
So Prodigy. Rob.
interesting.
Yeah, he's more a yes guy.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that obviously does
That
come into
will.
play big time.
Sure, yeah.
All right. Tony.
Well, I mean, if I had to choose between the two, I do dearly love a bass 6. It's just my thing. But I would say I would do better on an Electric 12
Okay.
because you can do some neat runs and things, and I think you can make some neat sounds, especially if you have your amp regulated properly.
Yeah. Bends for days.
Yeah. If you're not running a variac, then
Ben's like, as in when you come up from under the ocean.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I get. So I'm going with the Electric 12.
Okay. Rob.
I think I'm going to go with the 12 as well.
Really?
I'm surprised too.
Are you a 12-string guy?
No.
I didn't think so.
No, but the bass 6, I mean, that really limits what you're doing. And if I was doing something like if you said, hey, you had to sing with Godsmack, okay, well then
Okay.
I'd figure out the bass 6 because you got to have the chug, 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 chug.
Right.
But a 12, I mean, you can play any music except for that with a 12. And, you could play any.
Why can't you play it with a 12?
Yeah.
Why not?
That's what I mean.
It's weird because you just brought up a point that there's a lot. I'm thinking about like bands that I might want to play with or something like that, and you're
12 string with
stand out for sure.
A 12 string with Oasis, no problem. You bring up a baritone, or a bass 6, that's going to drastically change Wonderwall forever.
Yeah.
The Beatles played a bass 6.
Sure. But it was probably also tracked with a 12 and a this and a that.
Yeah.
And, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like, okay, we're going to play American Girl. Here's the bass 6.
Yeah.
Right? Or we're going to play Oasis. Here's a bass 6.
Oh, that would...
Can you imagine those chords down a whole step or down an octave?
I gotta go with a 12 too. I think it's just oddly it would be more forgiving, because you'll be up there probably choking a little bit out, just going, "Wow, this is really crazy! I can't believe I'm doing this." And even if you stumble and you just do a bit of random picking, you're probably gonna make it sound pretty decent. And it's if you're being asked to get on, it's not a Prince situation where you're gonna do the a 5-minute lead out on a George Harrison song.
Mm-hmm.
You're probably going to be filling some air and adding to the chordiology.
Can you imagine soloing on either of those though? Here, we're gonna play Eruption.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Okay, so that was pretty decent, Tony. Nice little wind up there.
Yeah, I just try to bring it back to the beginning.
I mean, because I already did the basics.
Oh, yeah, you're so cool. Damn, I wish I was as cool as Todd.
Yeah, if only.
If only. At least I'm regulated.
Yes. All right, we need to say thank you to some very important people.
I eat lots of bran.
Yeah, that's completely different.
That's right, Todd, because at this point of the show is a special group of people we love to thank. These are our executive producers. Now, I already made the change.
Okay.
An executive producer makes this show possible.
Yeah.
How do you become one? Head over to patreon.com/the Guitar Knobs and check out a couple different levels in which you can participate, become a friend, a hero, a sponsor of the podcast.
Indeed.
A patron, even. That's a part of the name. Each level comes with some very nice thank you gifts and opportunities to win special prizes.
Got lots of them.
And lots of them. We're just giving them
Guarantee.
away. Yes. Maybe even
There's some great pedals we're going to be giving away, everybody. Just saying.
Really? Nobody told me that.
Yep.
Can I win those?
You can finish the thing.
Okay.
Whoa.
In addition to all that great stuff, including me not being able to win prizes, what else is there?
You get to have your name read on the thing.
Translated to, you get to have your name read on the thing. And that's what I'm going to do right now. So special thanks to these executive producers: John Sebastian, Trevor Ellenberg, Cameron Pampas, James Bell, Brett Hogarth, Don Kloss, Ralph Gottschalk from Wonderful Audio Technology. What? Rusty Sneeden, Vader and Pedals, John Halverson, Rick Calhoun, Trevor Gunberg, Elad Mizrahi, Richard Kendall, James White, Justin Jones, John Esterly from Rare Effects, Anthony Lathrop, Stefan Lamb, Michael Senchuk, Ken Sayers, Darren Gregory, Tom Barazin, Eric Merrow, and Plutone.
Yes.
But wait, Todd, there's more.
Okay.
There's a special group of executive producers. We call them our Grand Poobahs. These are the creme de la creme, the top of the heap, the A number ones. And they wear a fez upon their head whilst listening to the podcast. So special thanks to these Grand Poobahs: Anthony Gemalero, Billy Spitfire Unlimited, Bob Crouch, Brian Robison, Cody Foster, David Kaminga, David Tyndall, Enrico Fernando, Fox Hill Studio, Hex Matos, James Pennington, John Williams, LSJ Music Company, Matt Hart, Michael Van Zant, Michio Murakishi, Moon Guitars, Paul Von Eppinger, Sam Jett, Steve Keys, Tyler Casey Ryan, Zach Oswald from Brandon Wound Pickups, Pedro Vasquez, and an upgrade this week from Gregory Randall. Welcome to the big league.
Yes. Thank you so much, Gregory. What a kind gesture that was. We need to thank, we did thank everyone. I just need to thank you personally because without you, honestly, we just couldn't keep this rolling.
No.
It's a bigger machine than we originally set out to.
Oops.
Set out in a raft. And we're just going around the bend, but now we're out in the big ocean. And we need. So, anyways, Rob.
Yeah.
Where can people contact you, learn more about what you do, enjoy the things that you make? You haven't been making too much lately.
Well, yeah. So Instagram, somebody tried to break into my Instagram months and months ago.
Yeah.
And I tried to log in. It said you have to, reset something. And that's where it's sat since. So I need to get in on that and claim my Instagram back. But
yeah.
So yeah, you can go to Instagram, but I can't check messages. I can't post anything. So I'm not getting anything.
Okay.
So send me an email
to
info@madcowamplification.com. And that's really it. The email works just fine because that's on my own little dedicated thing I'm paying for. Here's the rule. If you own a business, don't rely on social media as your form of communication, or don't rely on Google for your documents and everything. Have a third party, something you're paying for, a service.
Interesting.
Yeah, because something like this, somebody tries to force their way in, I'm locked out. It's like,
yeah.
So.
Yeah, indeed. Tony?
Head over to pickguardian.com. Check out the stuff that I do. What do? I make custom pickguards for guitars, mainly. If you have something that you're trying to do, shoot me an email. Let me know what you're trying to do. I'll be happy to take good care of you. It's your opportunity to make your guitar even more yours.
Perfectly done. Well, we got lots of things. You need to get one of these Guitar Knobs boost pedals from Sketchy. You can shoot me a DM on Instagram at Guitar Knobs, or email me, Todd@theguitarknobs.com, and get one of those for $75, and get yourself a Tony Baloney pedal at Tony Baloney Pedal on Instagram, BOLONE, not what.
I wish
Tony
I had
thinks
access
it's
to
called.
Instagram to check this.
And I think, in general, we just want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for being out there. Please shoot us a little message and tell us what you think, what you're up to. We'd like to get to know you. We know the people that we reference all the time because they took the step to get to know us. It's just that's how that works. So we would love to hear from you. Rob, I want to thank you for dropping your knowledge, coming in here, taking
you,
a
Todd.
bunch of
Yes.
like weird liver punches and stuff and still rolling with it. And I think we all learned something, and that makes your brain feel good, makes you happy. Have a fantastic Guitar Week, everybody. And subscribe!
Yeah. Something where it's like, it's just the pot. Nothing else is wrong. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
I'll be smelling good then.
So that's disappointing.
As soon as I retire, by the way, I want to get a job on a pirate movie.
Okay, so anyways, so I think we're kind of like you know,
Sweet spot.
push off some of that stuff.
He thinks Rob be ignoring me then.
So, and get paid my worth a little more.
good with a parrot on your shoulder.
No, I used to be able to take out my tooth, though. So that would have come in handy.
Jesus, that's disgusting. All
Okay.
right. So, let's go through here. Hopefully you guys got some questions and stuff too.
I have no idea.
We will.
Okay.
I think it's stupid. This is a stupid show. I don't want to do this
Wow.
one.
Well, you know what?
Definitely.
Thank God.
We could cut off one of your hands and then put a hook on the end.
Yes.
That'd be cool. Then we wouldn't have to listen to you play guitar.
That's true.
Oh,
I know. That was pretty
mean.
rough.
No,
This is real.
I
This is real,
I
Rob.
thought I was gonna be able to
Tony.
announce this, but you said I couldn't
Stole
do it.
your
I'll do it.
thunder.
I'll clap and we can do it
No,
again.
no,
Stole
no,
your
forget
thunder.
it. No,
That's
go
what
ahead.
Todd does.
No, do it.
Okay.
Do it.
Stealing
man.
everyone's glory.
No, actually, no. I want you to do it. I want you to do it. Here we go.
But, you know,
Yes.
Oh yes.
Oh,
Oh
yes.
yes.
that's good.
Yeah.
But I've adjusted you.
What crappy show is this?
I
Can't
know.
put auto tune on me. Get with the times, Todd. Let's go some pilly things.
All
on.
your shirts are that color. I don't think I've ever seen you with another
What?
color
Yeah,
shirt.
you have.
I don't know if I have. No. It's
Yeah,
either
you have.
rust or
That's it.
dang it. And away we go.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.